Wow.
Awesome. Well, that's huge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as in,
I'm excited.
it's good, man. Like, you should be though. Like, that's a big move, man. How home ownership.
Yeah.
I remember home ownership. I'm so over it.
Like, been there, done that,
Yeah.
got the mortgage.
Oh my, I'm so over it. Like that honeymoon is sailed. Like honeymoon phase with house. It's done. We're good.
So what about you? Anything big going on up your way?
Actually, yeah, my PR application just went through yesterday, so I am officially like legally allowed to start applying for jobs and you know getting
Nice.
the healthcare and stuff here. I do
Oh
have to
no!
wait for like
I have to leave the house.
yeah, I mean there's a couple other things I have to do like get my the equivalent of a social security number. They call it a SIN number, like
Yeah.
serial ID number, something like that. I don't know. Social ID.
Sure. Yeah. Acronym for your identification number. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to get that before I can really start. But yeah, that's a huge weight off my shoulders.
Yeah, that's good. You're on the path to
Yes.
being able to do something.
Yeah.
What What do you think you're gonna do?
I am not entirely sure yet. I'm kind of thinking a couple of different things. I've I'm gonna start like volunteering at the museum at any rate, and that could be a foot in the door for getting a potential position depending on who I meet there. That would be kind of cool because I do have experience with museum collections and things
You
of
did the
that
butterflies
sort.
thing, right?
Yeah, and I've also done. I worked in a lab, a genetics lab for a while, so just handling samples and stuff like that, dealing with like the uh, you know, cryogenetics, like just making sure it's all frozen and stuff properly and all. Yeah, kind of thinking something like that. Might still look for some jobs in the programming sector, but I've steadily become more and more disillusioned with that. But we'll see what positions are out there when I start really looking.
So what you're saying is not McDonald's.
I mean, it's well, there's no McDonald's in your vicinity, but it's
I was
not off the
kidding.
table.
I was kidding.
I mean,
You almost seem disappointed.
Domino's pizza drivers probably make some decent money, I'm sure.
Well, I think you did that for a while too, didn't you?
Yeah, Pizza Hut. Drove
Yeah.
Pizza Hut for a while. That
I remember those times.
wasn't bad. It was decent. Yeah.
Sorry, kid.
You didn't tell us hi.
He did.
No, you didn't.
You're
You said, "I'll
supposed to
tell
tell
them."
us.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was getting to. I had my mic muted. He said to say Joe and Scott hi. So it was Ethan, by the way.
Hi.
The other one is long asleep, and the older one is God knows where. And I'm strangely fine with that.
I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, he was at the mall with us earlier, and he had one of his friends with him, and then they took off to go get food, and I didn't see them at all ever again. So, like, all right, whatever.
You didn't want to join us tonight?
I don't know where he is.
Never responded to nothing, so
Nope. I could hit him up real quick and see what the hell he's doing.
are we live?
Yes, we are live. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first live edition of Technically Incorrect. As I said that correctly this time. Yep. Just wanted to try the live thing. See how that goes. I don't know. Still gonna upload to YouTube, so.
We're an interesting bunch. Can't tell.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. That's what I did anybody look and see what I titled the stream?
Didn't even pull it up.
Huh?
I didn't even pull it up. I wasn't thinking of watching our own stream. I mean, isn't that a little cliche?
Well,
maybe?
yeah, I mean, no, it's fine. Like, I was just gonna like look at the title.
Well, it's gonna start playing the stream.
Yeah. Well, you can fucking close it after that, or I could just tell you what the hell I titled it. Either one.
So definitely, you should.
I should what?
I was thinking of a way for you to display the chat on your screen so we could see it.
Oh, this chat doesn't make any difference. There's nobody in chat. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
If ever, though. I mean, who knows?
the-
Jake might
the
watch
old-
one.
The old
There's
one is
three-
a football game, by the way.
There's
What?
three people watching. Is that all three of us?
It's probably
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be all.
I
of us.
closed mine out, so it'll probably drop in a minute. But
I don't know, my feed still says one viewer, so I have no idea how quick this thing goes. But whatever. Not very
it's an
fast at
interesting
all.
Start.
Huh?
Interesting start.
So yeah, we didn't really decide what we were going to talk about.
Absolutely not. We
This
did
time.
not. And I didn't really care. I was just like, yeah, I'm in a good mood. Let's just go for it. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, that kind of means the world is our oyster. What do we want to talk about?
You can say whatever strikes your fancy.
I said there's
I mean-
You guys heard about the all civilian
all my
space
trash
crew, right? That went up.
Yeah,
I have,
SpaceX.
I have this.
And they weren't showing a lot of the video feed because it was basically a private mission. You know, they didn't really show much
Yeah.
of it. Is that a timing belt?
Yes, that is a timing belt.
Nice.
It's one that I've been meaning for the last 3 Sundays to put in Nico's car and still have not done it.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
That's task is doable in one evening.
Is it doable in one evening? Like one
Yeah,
day? I
task.
wouldn't do it at night.
Well, I meant like
Yeah, it's
afternoon.
probably
evening.
about 4 hours in a driveway. It's not too terribly bad as far as these things go. But last time I went to go do it, I didn't have the right cam locks because the set that I grabbed was supposedly universal and it was not. So I had to go get the right ones. And then let's see, last Sunday he was doing something, I think, or I was doing something. I can't remember. But it doesn't really matter. Maybe I'll do it before I leave for a few days. So I don't know. I guess we will see.
So I know we talked a while ago about doing the time crystal thing, and it's funny that it keeps kind of popping up. Like just a few days ago, there's been more articles about the same time crystal thing.
Ooh, send me articles. I like articles. Let's read.
I mean,
We'll read articles from the internet to our viewers.
Yeah, to our current. Oh, wait a minute. It just went up to 3. Are you still watching?
I mean, if you are listening, please feel free to leave a comment and give us any suggestions for anything else to talk about. Anything tech related or
Title says, you know.
anything at
Whatever.
all, really. We like food related things.
Yeah, that's for the other one that didn't join us tonight because he's at a football game.
Oh, is that where he is?
Yes. Oh, I said that earlier. I don't know if you heard me or not. But yes, he is at a
Probably
football
not.
game.
Yeah.
Where? Oh, where? Da-da. Nope, I didn't want to do that. Okay.
I mean, I can send you some. If you just Google like time crystal and go to the news tab, there you'll see that there's some that are a week ago, a few days ago, and then we had talked about this like a month and a half ago, I think. At this point, it's been a while since we talked about it.
Yes, it definitely has been a while because we have not done a podcast in a while.
Yeah.
Because life gets in the way of everything.
Yeah, it's
You know,
true.
one of the biggest problems I have with time crystals is I guess I understand what they're talking about, but I don't really understand what the use may be. Like, what is the exact significance? What can we do with this? Why is this such a important thing? I mean, obviously it's important because it's basically breaking a law of thermodynamics, so that's definitely significant. But what else? Why is you?
I think it, to put it simply, I think it definitely falls into one of those camps where it's, we don't really know the actual like implications or the actual use of what this kind of thing has right now. It's one of those things that's like, it's interesting, and interesting things are often useful.
That's a big leap.
I'm totally botching a like quote that someone made that said like a similar idea, but it's like, we see it within like math a
Maybe
lot.
useful, maybe interesting things are usually useful. Is that what you said? I was
That
trying to
is what he
reverse it.
said.
Useful things are generally interesting. Yeah, that I meant to reverse it. Useful things are generally interesting.
Interesting things can be useful is kind of the idea. And I don't think anyone really knows the exact any actual use case for this. It's basically
It's for time travel, man, isn't it?
it's basically a benchmark, like there are like tests you could do to benchmark your PC. If you want to like get the speed of your CPU, there's like different ways of testing it, right? There's different benchmarks. This is kind of a benchmark for testing a quantum computing system. And so this gives us kind of a starting point or one example of how a time crystal can be done to serve a quantum computing, or can be done by a quantum computer. And then we can do that with another one, and then we then can compare those, the results of those.
Okay.
Like the mathematicians and like physicists are going crazy because it has all these like interesting implications about like symmetry and things like that, like which I did like a whole deep dive on, and I don't feel like it's absolutely necessary to really fully understand the idea of symmetry to appreciate the time crystal thing, but it is kind of interesting.
What I find funny is when you look up what is a time crystal, the articles that are supposed to explain what a time crystal is don't seem to know what a time crystal is.
So what are they saying that what do you mean?
Let's see. So someone posed it's just back and forth, man. It's like, okay, it literally says, so what exactly is a time crystal? It might be sound like a critical component, or it might sound like a critical component that makes a time machine tick, or some futuristic power source, or perhaps an artifact of lost alien civilization.
Okay, that's a bit of a fucking stretch.
It's like, it's actually something more subtle. The curiosity laws of physics. Okay, thanks. Appreciate that.
So should we try to explain then what a time crystal is, I guess?
Well, you might know, but you might be able to explain what a time crystal is. I have no fucking idea.
I could exactly explain it. I know that they use quantum computers to make them, but
Well, so we know what a space crystal is, right? A space crystal is basically a crystal. It's a repeating structure in space. So basically what a time crystal is it's a repeating structure in time, but it gets more technical from there because they basically are referring to matter in its ground state or its lowest energy state, and the repetition that's happening to make this like this crystal or this repeating pattern, this oscillating pattern over time, means that they have two ground states that are of equivalent energy, and it can occupy one and then the other, like repeatedly. And it does that without using any entropy, without absorbing or releasing any net energy. But basically, it's an oscillation that happens over time. And it can be of a lot of different things. They did it in this quantum computer using qubits, and they use these qubits to do the oscillating. But they've also used like nitrogen imperfections inside of a diamond. Were able to set up a time crystal type system in that. And then one was like using ytterbium ions, like in a gas. They were able to use that. You can also do like the spins of electrons, just flipping the spins of electrons, or even, anyway, yeah.
So, that one I've heard before. The electron spinning thing, yeah.
But that's the basic idea. Is it's this just this repeating flipping of this, like, these qubits all being in basically an up or a down state to store like a 1 or a 0, and it'll be in that state, and then it'll be in its complementary state next. It'll be like all of that flipped, and then in the next frame, kind of everything will
exact,
flip
equal,
back.
and opposite almost.
Yeah, kind of. Everything is flipped. Yeah, as far as the qubits go. So,
okay.
Something that I kept seeing that really bothered me, I don't know if it's too early to get into this, but I kept seeing in articles that they put that the time crystal lasted 100 seconds. Okay? I did a deep dive. I mean, I am not a physicist, but I like found the Google paper that's in preprint in the archive like website and read it as much as I could, you know, and I could not find any mention of it lasting 100 seconds. I couldn't find any information that corroborated that 100 seconds. So if anyone in the chat, or if you guys, anybody listening, can corroborate that, please let me know. But I think I found what the error is that people writing articles are making. And basically it's that it lasted for 100 cycles. You know what I mean? So like flipping one, you know, then a flip and then back, that would be one cycle. Mm-hmm. So it did that 100 times, but they use this letter, lowercase t, in the papers, which is often used to mean time, and often in seconds, but they don't actually say that in the paper. And anywhere it is referred to, they talk to it about t being the number of cycles, basically. But these article
they
writers
never define what a cycle is any further than what we're assuming they're referring to being the flip-flop of the state, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, they could have some more nuanced meaning of cycle, but from what I am understanding of the language of the paper, they're referring to cycle as like a wave cycle, like the flipping of these qubits from one state to another, the opposite state, and then back to its original state.
You very much compare that to like an analog signal, a full cycle, full up and down.
Yeah, and it does that 100 times. So it's like, if we're looking at one qubit, if it was up, then it'd be like up and then down. That's one cycle. It did up, down 100 times.
Yeah. At whatever frequency it does it cycling.
Exactly, and that's what's going to change the amount of time it actually lasts, right? If we're only limiting it to the 100 cycles. The thing is that 100 cycles number is important because that's what distinguishes it. That's like the threshold for it being considered a time crystal. Because there are a lot of like pseudo time crystal-y like systems that are much
how
more.
long is that actually, though? I mean, obviously it's not 100 or a minute and 40 seconds.
Probably
No,
varies depending on material.
Well, it depends on the frequency they're using and the wavelength of it, because that's.
Okay.
So let me kind of describe the system a little bit to make it maybe makes a little more sense. All of this is happening in the bath of a laser. The qubits are being bathed by this laser. You can almost think of it as like a tide of waves rolling by of this laser. It's actually microwave radiation, but it's a laser. And they the flipping of the qubits happens with the same periodicity or the same like wavelength oscillation frequency of the microwave, but they do what's called period doubling. But it's exactly what you think it is. I mean, basically, if you imagine the like laser of being like a crest, then a drop, then a crest. Basically, every crest, it's flipping states of the qubits. Every crest causes a flip of the states. So if one qubit is up on one crest, then it's down on the next crest, and then on the third crest, it is now back to its original state. That's called a period doubled cycle. That's called a 2E, capital T, period doubled time crystal. Anyway, it's that's basically, I kind of lost my train of thought.
I can see how that's very easy to do.
The cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. Just all that to say. Oh yeah. So that's the qubits in the bath of the laser. They're kind of adhering to that frequency and dancing to that frequency at like the metronome of that laser pulse. They were able. The cool thing about this paper is they were able to tweak that frequency a little bit. So take it down from like its current value and like change its. They didn't actually change the frequency. They changed its like polarity or something. I don't remember exactly. But they were able to shift that's what they did. They shifted the phase a little bit, and they were able to keep it stable. Like the time crystal kind of acted independently for a bit, despite modulating that phase of the laser a little bit.
So it was able to do its own thing. Huh.
So it
kept
kind
doing
of
what
was
we
able,
expected it to do, even though we changed something.
Yeah, it was kind of like the pendulum just kind of kept swinging.
It had the inertia, the momentum.
Yeah, it's, to be clear, it still needed that laser there, but it was able to not have to go in exact lockstep with the laser.
So what you're saying is it has lag.
It can have lag or a bit of lead, even depending on how you modulate the actual phase of the laser, how you actually shifted it. But yeah. But then it kind of like it can only do that for so long, and they got past their 100 cycle threshold. Thus, it's arguably a time crystal. But nothing I could find said that means it lasted 100 seconds.
But it's like long and short of this is it's something that they've discovered that breaks I guess a previously set law of thermodynamics, and everyone's just like, oh, it's really cool, but we don't really have much of a use for it. Like, it doesn't really do anything at this point.
Did you lose Scott too?
Yes, he's gone.
I'm here audio wise.
There it is. Yeah. No, his camera was having a little bit of a tick. The lasers were modulating frequency for his camera.
What were you saying, Rob, again? Just something.
Oh, I was just saying that this is just something that they have found while messing around with stuff that break. I don't know if this law of thermodynamics is like or up until this point that the time crystals defy or break. was like a set, like understood law of thermodynamics, or if it was just something that some people agreed on.
Second law of thermodynamics.
Second
if I'm
law,
correct,
yes,
right?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the conservation of momentum, I believe. But that's where symmetry comes into play. It kind of becomes more important in kind of discussing why that is the case and what that means. Because basically, the other conservation laws. Oh no, it's the conservation of energy that got broken with this. But the other laws have been broken as well. So the case that's often given as an example is in a space crystal, the conservation of momentum is broken because in a crystal, if you have two waves traveling through a crystal and they intersect, you can actually get a counter wave that goes like in a backwards direction relative to both of those waves, which would not happen in classical physics, classical mechanics. They would only go forward. That does happen, but it also scatters backwards, and that's called Umklapp scattering or something like that. It's a German word. It's like the
it would have to have been, yes.
Umklapp. Yeah, and it's yeah. So that violates the conservation of momentum. But the catch is, it violates it, but it violates it in a very special circumstance. Remember,
It doesn't necessarily break it, right? That's the whole key. Is it doesn't break the law. It just means that it doesn't always apply.
It means that it's the way I interpret this is the system is so complicated and special and nuanced that it takes a new set of physics to kind of describe it. It takes at least additional physics to really describe it. My suspicion is that like with the case of the crystal, it's almost like a multi-bodied problem, like a three-bodied problem, but a many-bodied problem that is really complicated. And if we could somehow solve that with classical mechanics, with the right computing power, then it wouldn't seem like it actually broke any laws of physics. But it's that we are trying to observe it from our higher outer like perspective. Like being inside of a crystal is different than being outside of the crystal, and so the physics are kind of different there.
So we need to go inside the crystal then.
You would need to be in, yeah.
So how do we do that? Because that sounds really cool.
Right?
I want to go in a
A
crystal.
lot of drugs.
So to get in the crystal, we need
Yeah,
crystal
that
meth.
recipe, right?
Break out your crack pipes, boys. Here we go.
I think I'm gonna pass on that episode. Just let me know when you do it.
Pass on that episode.
Yeah.
I might have an episode. No. I don't even like taking pharmacy drugs, for fuck's sake. No thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at any rate, like, really neat, but it's like we just kind of go, okay, well, we don't really know what it's for or what to do with it, but we found it, and we're struggling to figure it out.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those things that kind of shows how we can control a quantum system. It like kind of shows our mastery or increasing mastery of these quantum systems.
And I was actually going to say almost the opposite. It shows how much we still have yet to figure out and learn.
I would kind of go with that one.
We
still
know
learning,
nothing. Yeah. See, my opinion and thought of everything that humanity has come to so far is that we really probably know very little about how the universe works, why we're here, all that stuff. I mean, all of our assumptions and stuff are only what we have so far been able to observe and determine. That really means nothing in the grand scheme of things if we take into account, supposedly, how long the universe has been around. You know, things could change that possibly break the laws of physics as we know it, and then it could change back, you know? I mean, I don't know. Just theorizing here. But I think we know a lot less than we think we know is the point.
Yeah.
So basically, like, no, I'm not. I was like, I'm not going there. I was about to go off on a tangent, but okay.
I just kind of did. You're entitled. I mean,
I mean, this is fodder for going off on tangents.
right?
Well, to like, I guess just delve further into what Joe just said, but the everything that we think we know about how the universe works in all and science as a whole, like at any moment, like some fourth dimensional being could like come down and be like, "Hey, y'all are morons. Y'all don't know a damn thing. This has been fun watching y'all for all these years."
Linking it to like the Q in Star Trek, the race that's been around since the beginning of time that's just kind of sitting back and going, oh my god, these guys are so stupid.
Wait, that was
You
that
know.
was the race that impregnated Fingers, right? Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's Voyager,
That's all
yeah.
I fucking know about him. I am a horrible Trekkie. Absolutely horrible Trekkie.
But a lot of that is if you will, I would say flavored too, because I would think it would be awesome if there was a race of creatures that have been around since the beginning that could really tell us how stupid we are.
I mean, they've made
If they were that nice.
they've made video games and shit about that crap. Like freaking what is it? Star Ocean, right? Star Ocean was one of those where I forget which one it was, but one of the storylines was like basically, oh, we're three-dimensional beings, and there is like another level of something that was kind of like made us, and they just kind of watched us as we progressed, like technologically and everything. And then as far as the game was concerned, like when we became a threat to them, they like basically like ran a virus program and destroyed like the game that they had made, which was our world. So yeah, it's been done. It's been thought about at least.
Even the Matrix is arguably a form of that, but it's hard to show in, the extra dimensionality. You obviously can't have a movie in 4D, but you could imagine that being kind of the same idea.
Right. Well, I was gonna say like the video game, like the fourth dimensional beings didn't look any different than the rest of the characters in the freaking game either, but it was just like a shiny glass world as stuff is led to depict. But
I guess we'd be seeing its like shadow, right? You'd be seeing its three-dimensional shadow as a four-dimensional creature.
Yeah, it's like
It's kind of weird.
Interesting.
it was just basically like these otherworldly beings that created our universe or whatever, and it was basically like a test simulation for them, and we were just part of a video game, so to speak, that they didn't really control. It was just there.
That's actually interesting. There have been theories that, we are a simulation and all that. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. But the idea of thinking that we are a simulation on a scale that's not a computer, like we're not in a hard drive running somewhere, we're in the universe, it's some creature somewhere created as a simulation. That's something that I haven't quite thought about, though. That's interesting.
Well, I mean,
That
like
sounds like semantics to me.
in the way they left it, like in the world of that game, was like when the fourth dimensional beings wanted to delete our universe, they just basically like loaded in a virus program to wipe it all out, right? But on our side of the fence, it looked like these like horrific fucking monsters that were just killing everybody and blowing up planets and worlds.
Was this Star Ocean?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't hear you if you said that
I
earlier.
can't remember which one it was. It was
The End of Time, I think.
Yeah, it was End of Time. Yep, it was End of Time.
Yeah, that was the one that I actually played a bit of and I really enjoyed. So
Yeah, great game. I mean, older game now, but great game.
Yeah.
Definitely. But they definitely dove into that. Like that we're just a computer program or a simulation that somebody was like running to.
Mhm.
Let's just see what happens if we leave them to their own devices and let it run amok, basically.
Yeah, on that note, and kind of with what Joe was saying, I feel like our description of calling it a computer program versus calling it another creature with us in like a terrarium type thing, to me is kind of semantics, because
Sure.
it wouldn't be a direct analog to anything in our universe. It would be something totally, quite literally outside of our universe, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could only try to relate that with ideas of like, it's like a computer, but it's not. It's a fucking 4-dimensional object.
Yeah, in that instance, we're not really a simulation. We are still real, but we might be an experiment then.
Well,
It
yeah,
might
that's a
be a
good
better
point.
classification.
It's
You know,
all
that-
us trying to make sense of what this would look like, but through
From the
our
outside.
own like imaginations of what we would think it would look like, not exactly what it would be like.
And hence the limitation on knowledge that we have. We have no
Yeah.
idea.
You know, now that we've talked about it, I don't like the word simulation. You know what I mean? Because it implies like what? Because you like kind of touched on it, Joe. You were like simulation versus like actually real. What the fuck is the difference, really? You know, like if it really is like, even if it was like exactly like the fucking Matrix, if you lived your whole life in that thing, that is real to you.
Yeah.
That is your reality.
Reality,
What is
yeah.
Yeah. What is the difference, really? I don't know if I like that word.
Let's throw it out. No more use of the word
Yeah.
simulation. We're done with that word.
I
Get
I mean,
it out of the
I
dictionary.
actually
Get out
do.
of
In most instances of the word, I do agree with you that just it's a bad descriptor of what it is. Not very descriptive, even, we'll say.
I guess what it's describing is like an implicit creator and like a god. You know what I mean? It's kind of getting into that. It implies an
No.
entity that is.
Yes.
It implies
Yeah.
an entity that is
Okay.
acting in a form of creation and is in some sense over that creation, pretty damn well knowing. I don't know if they're all
Yeah.
knowing, but you know.
Yeah, well,
I just
I mean-
can't help it.
my character on Diablo has no idea that it's not real, right?
Does it know anything?
But I was gonna say, but yeah, it doesn't. See, that's where it gets
I know.
weird.
Doesn't actually know anything yet.
At what point will a hunk of microchips, you know, that becomes more and more intelligent by our standards, at what point does it become a sentient thing?
That's like you're playing a game, right? And then you assume that you're turning the game off, and it's off, right? And then you go back to it, and you continue or load your last save, and you pick up where you left off, right?
Talking about Toy Story right now.
No, not so much, but I
Ghost
could
in the
definitely
Machine.
I could definitely see the relation, because I was all like, oh god, what am I saying? Paused there I was like, oh.
Alright, did not mean to interrupt you, but bam, it just, yeah.
No, I mean that's all I was going with it. It's like, okay, but the thing in the character in the game does not continue on when you're not playing it.
Yeah.
We're assuming. That's just our view. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the doctor
That's
on
a
Voyager,
stretch.
when he was deactivated, he went into a black void. He says he doesn't know what time is when he's there, but he knows that he's in a black void, apparently.
So what does that mean?
Maybe there is still some sense of activity there, even if he's deactivated. I mean,
Right,
again,
but
it's
why
a
do you-
TV show, but
I mean, to really go out there, I mean, why do you think people are afraid of dying? Well, most people, I guess, would be afraid of dying. Some people I know are not, but like, because it's hard to fathom nothingness. Like, you
what
always-
does come after it? The unknown.
like, even when you go to sleep, you still have dreams and subconscious and whatever. Like, what is it like to just be nothing? Like, nobody knows. So, like,
You know,
there's got like your mind just does what it does.
I think the closest you can get is anybody that's ever done anesthetic, like general anesthetic for like a surgery and been put under, not put up, yeah, put under
Yeah, put under. Yeah.
for like a surgery.
Not
Like,
put down, put under.
Yeah, yeah. My wires crossed, like, wait, what? Anyway,
What am I saying?
that has got to be the closest to like being non-existent, you know, like you are literally like they ask you to count down 10, 9, 8, and you're like zonked out, and then it's just blackness until you wake up. There's just nothing there.
But then, like, you still wake up. See, what I find funny...
Not always,
like,
but...
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, we do have the unfortunate mishaps.
But
do we call them
mishaps? That's
mishaps?
what I mean.
But
that's the closest with still living to kind of getting a sense of what that nothingness might feel like.
Yeah, see, I did that when I was younger, when I had my wisdom teeth pulled out. Or not pulled out, but they had to, like, go in and surgically cut them. They didn't even let them come down. But I was under the anesthesia or anesthetic, whatever. They put the shit in your veins or whatever, and then they put the little breathe thing on you, and they started like, oh, just counting, and then like I was counting, and I was like, when do I stop counting? And they're like, oh, just keep counting. And I'm like, okay, and then I don't remember anything after that. Like, literally, I woke up. Apparently, I woke up. I don't remember waking up. I mean, when I woke up at my parents' house in the living room chair. Right? That's when I thought that I woke up, right? But yet when I went to sleep, I was in the chair at the orthodontist, right? So apparently I was conscious enough to where they picked me up, took me off the chair, put me like in a little waiting room area, put like Easter bunny ears on my head, took Polaroids. And I'm sure my mother has these somewhere. I don't know.
I'm gonna have to ask her at some point then.
Like, and I looked just drugged out, like just horrible. Like literally, I could have been like drooling. It was bad. I looked horrible. And then then somehow got me to a car. But I was walking. They were helping me, but I was walking. I don't remember any of it. None.
And you were like talking.
Yeah, like I think I was told that I was talking, but it wasn't anything like comprehensible or it's not is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But like but all I remember is orthodontist office, in chair, count backwards, and then waking up at my parents' house. So yeah, I don't know. But I remember, like I said, I remember nothing. Like I don't know. I don't remember the process. I don't have any dreams. I don't remember them doing the bunny ears thing and taking the Polaroids. I don't remember them walking me out to the car. None of it. Nothing. So, yeah.
Kind of scary, actually, but you know.
Yeah. It's like, I kind of wonder if that's like the people that like the sleepwalk stuff, or the, you know, that like go online and like spend their entire like life savings and then don't remember it the next day. And, like, is that the same stuff they go through? Like, they really have like blank, like nothing. It's like, at least when you're sleeping, you know you're sleeping, right? Like, you're sleeping, you might have a dream, you might not, and then you wake up, you're still in your bed, you're like where you left off. You have paused your game and you picked it back up, basically, right? Like, I don't know. It's weird.
I've definitely done things in my sleep and not been conscious of them, which is kind of weird.
Yeah,
and I've also...
I never have.
Yeah, like, no getting up, no walking around. Taylor tends to get up a little bit at night, I've noticed. And she'll come out here and just kind of like this, and she'll go in the kitchen and open the fridge, and it's like, no, Taylor, go back to bed. You know, it's like she's half asleep, but not really responsive.
See, both.
Well, I remember getting up in the middle of the night when I was little and drinking the milk in the fridge, but that was intentional.
Yeah, like, but you remember that though.
Yeah.
I said, and kids like do this. Ethan did it. Brett has done it before, where they'll just like be crying or screaming in the middle of the night. You go to them, they'll try to wake them up, and they don't stop. And it's like, you cannot wake them up. It's weird. Like,
they're in that cycle of sleep.
Outside of like actually like slapping them or something, like not gonna wake them up, and they're just screaming, and you're like, what the hell? And you realize that their eyes are open, they're screaming, whatever, but they're not there. Like, nobody's home. It's like they don't know that you're holding them. They don't know that you're like, you know, yelling at them, trying to get them to. They don't know it.
The whole Tom and Jerry eyes, they sail.
Yeah, and just like, and it's weird. Like, well, I mean, with Ethan, it was very strange. 'Cause I never went through that with Nico because he was already like 3, I guess, when I met him for the first time. So, but yeah, I mean, going through that the first time as a parent, like with Ethan, like that was like, holy crap! Like, what is going on? Like, I was like, something's seriously wrong with this kid. He needs CAT scans and da. Like, and then when Brett did it, I was like, okay, well, I know what it is. It sucks for him, but it's like, just sit there and hold him and like hope he wakes up eventually. But yeah, it's very odd. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the same. Like, I don't know if that's like a kid version of like just a really like a horrible nightmare that they're stuck in or can't wake up from, or like, I don't know. Like, if I want to think that if I've ever had a dream or a nightmare, like if somebody was like grabbed me physically, like while I was sleeping, I would wake up. I mean, that's a normal thing, right? I mean, I've been like jarred out of dreams before.
It can happen, but like, yeah, like Joe was saying, like we all enter a stage of sleep if we're getting healthy sleep at least and getting deep enough sleep. We all enter a phase where we are like, your body actually becomes kind of paralyzed, and you literally like there are stages of sleep where you literally like can't wake up consciously until some things happen, I guess, and then you can wake up. You can definitely kind of be stuck. The opposite can happen too.
It just shuts down. Is quite literally what happens. Is the processor just kind of shuts down. It's like, okay, we're just gonna take a break.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the neurology behind it and all, but the opposite can happen too, where you can be stuck in that paralyzed state, but actually awake. And that's, people often have described that as like demons or feeling like a pressure on their chest and things like that. But it's literally, you wake up and you can't move, you're like paralyzed and you're actually awake, but your body is still in its deep sleep state, basically.
They have drugs that do it too.
Here you go with the drugs again. Yeah, but I mean, it's like, where is that like that switch in your brain? Whether it's alcohol induced or drug induced or neither one. It's like your brain just does it like on its own.
Memory construction is such a crazy thing in and of itself, right? And it's just that didn't happen, you know, in our brain.
There was actually an episode of what my mom was watching. It was one of those crime shows night, and it actually touched on how memories are quite often not really the way that people remember them. They're always flavored by emotions and feelings and perceptions of what did happen. So while you might remember coming home and setting your keys down like you do every day, something else might have happened that you don't remember because it wasn't something that you always remember, you know?
Yeah.
Funny... Oh, go ahead, Scott, sorry.
I was just going to say, the funny thing about like memories is they're not, we like to think of them as like these flashbulb, like videotaped moments in our brain, but they're explicitly not. They are literally, anytime we go to retrieve a memory, we are trying to synthesize some of those details in the moment. Like we're literally recreating, and our brain is not perfect at that, and we will fill in details that were not actually there.
Yeah, I've had that happen before too.
We've talked about this before. Yeah,
I'm like, I'll go and like, even talking to my mother, like when me and my brother were kids, I'll be like, oh, I remember this, and she'd be like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, like I distinctly remember this happening, and she's like, no, it didn't. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, for real? Like, are you messing with me? Like, it's that vivid in my head, but it apparently did not happen that way, or didn't happen the way that I'm remembering it. But it's very strange. And then sometimes, like, you'll go back to retrieve something, like maybe not from your childhood, but something from like maybe 2 months ago or whatever, you know, and then you're like, oh, I remember this happening and this happening, but like there's gaps. It's like you can remember, oh, this person, we were talking about this or whatever, but then like the next 3 conversations you had with other people, like you don't remember at all. It's like you could just pick, like, I don't know, at least that happens to me a lot. I'll put it that way.
It happens to me a lot, like with work stuff, because I deal with so many different situations but all of them are revolving around kind of the same thing, being the policies and all, you know? So I deal with multiple advisors, multiple policies, multiple issues. So it's kind of like I'll talk to an advisor about an issue, and then the next day or next week or something, he'll call me about it, and I'll be like, I really got to look into my notes. I have no idea what you're talking
Oh
about.
yeah. No,
Because it's like,
yeah.
I just deal with so much from the
That's-
front to the back, from the front
that's
to
a
the back. That's
people
just the
thing,
way it goes.
like, because for the one person, like, customers will do this all the time, like, you'll get a phone call and be like, hey, you know, I'm so and so, I came in for this and da 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 whatever, and you're like, you do realize I do this every day. Like, you do not stand out. Like, I might stand out to you because you came in this one time. You don't come here every day, you know? It's like, you don't deal with me every day. You dealt with me this one time, so of course you remember it. I deal with people with the same stuff every day, buddy. Like, you gotta do better than that. Like, I don't remember. It's like, yeah, and then, like, you know, like, oh, let me, sometimes, you know, like, oh, yeah, well, what's your name? Okay, fine. Give some information. You go to pull up some records, and you're like, no, I still don't, like, sorry. What is it you need? It's like,
Notes
yeah.
have been my best friend, man.
But that's,
Taking
yeah, I was gonna
notes.
say, that's just a people thing, because, like, I do it to other people too, you know, and like I have to stop and like catch myself and be like, okay, they deal with people me like all the time, so a little bit more detailed. Or
Yeah.
don't get aggravated when they don't remember me specifically. Specifically, is it Pacific?
Our brains are not recorders. They are like filters just trying to grab at whatever the hell they can. And we're really good at it. So good so much that we see patterns where ones don't exist. And so
Yeah.
optical illusions and things like that can work. And yeah, we are just constantly filtering out information and we don't get it all. And then years or even the next day, like you've lost some detail. Even the last thing, like I couldn't repeat verbatim what you just said. I was listening, I got your idea, but like I couldn't repeat it verbatim. I couldn't retain all that information.
Yeah.
My brain would turn into a black hole, you know?
Sometimes I wonder.
Yeah, me too, man.
But
Me
The
too.
ultimate,
It
the ultimate
goes-
key to knowledge is turning yourself into a black hole.
It goes like, and again, like on certain things, like you deal with stuff so much, and it's like what I know really well, and other things I might know a little bit or whatever, but it's like you can kind of tell when you start talking about certain things, and I'm like, I'm out, like I don't know, right? And then other things you're just really engaged in because you know them, and then some things you know so well that you like call people out of, like, no, that's not how that works. But there's different levels and stuff in what your brain retains and what you deem is necessary, I would assume, because at least that's the way it is for me.
Absolutely.
And all of those camps have different traps that you can fall into. And we all fall into all of those camps, and there's all these traps that can happen. If you're really an expert in something, you're actually kind of biased, and you might not be able to see a thing that's actually true about this because you were blinded by your previous expertise.
Yeah.
You can be so ignorant that you can't admit that you're wrong.
Well, see, I don't know if it's expertise or if it's experience that causes that. When you see something, well, I mean, given it would be kind of field specific, but like if you see something, like if you fix stuff, right? If you see something that's a kind of fault or failure multiple times, you know, this is always a common failure, whatever, and then you're talking to somebody, and you got to keep in the back of your mind that, okay, it most likely may be this, but not necessarily. And you can kind of like work yourself down a path that's incorrect because of your experience.
Preconceived notions. Yeah.
Like
You
I
know,
said, if
as
you
you're
started from
describing-
scratch with every problem that's presented to you, if you started from scratch based on your knowledge and expertise, I don't think it would be so much of a problem. But people tend to go on experience, and that they skip beginning stuff and move down the line thinking it's this, and then it turns out not to be this. Now they have to go all the way back.
Yeah, I mean, experience can be helpful. Experience and expertise are kind of they're really closely related. You know, they're almost two sides of the same coin.
Experience is what you have done. Expertise is what you can do, I think. Might be a good delineation.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're getting at with that. Yes, but to me, having expertise in an area is problem is presented, you have a process to figure this out.
Scientific
You
method.
take your steps, you know, okay, this happened, this didn't happen, now I need to go here, whatever. You know all that. Experience to me, at least in my experience, can tend to screw you over pretty badly. So I try not to. You try to look at everything like this is the first time you've ever seen something, right? That's a tale.
Well, yeah, that's
There's
a tail.
There's tales like
You can really sum it up in actually one statement. What does assuming do? It makes an ass out of you and me. I don't care how much experience or expertise you have. If you assume anything, probably not a good idea.
yeah, but it doesn't make an ass out of I because there's no I to assume. So.
I know what you mean cheekily, but like everybody does assume, and
Yeah.
assumptions are fine because they lay a groundwork that at least you put your nickel down, and then we can then figure out the evidence that whether or not it supports that assumption.
Assumptions.
And that's the good thing about.
Yeah, assumptions are like the bad theory. Like I think.
Well, even math itself starts with assumptions. Like you have to. The axioms that create the math systems as we know them, they require assumptions, and you have to work and say, well, that's the framework. Now, is those assumptions? And science works in a kind of similar fashion, where you start with your hypothesis.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't just start blindly, because then that has problems too, because you might not know when to stop gathering data, basically, and you might just be privy to, you might be susceptible to biases you didn't know you had if you don't put your nickel down and be like, well, this is what I think is going to happen.
Right, but then you have the difference in the people that will get stuck on that particular track on their assumptions, and then the ones that go, okay, this isn't working, let's take a step back. So, just, I guess, different strokes for different folks, maybe.
I think that kind of also leads to what he was saying about you'll get caught up in your own biases. Maybe
Yeah.
somebody's not able to see the error that they're making, where somebody else would be like, okay, this isn't working. The other person was just too blinded to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what's justifying it, right? Like if you're basing something off your experience because that's how you've always done it, well, that's an appeal to tradition, and that is an informal logical fallacy. It doesn't mean you're wrong, but you're not rationally supporting your statement with anything logical, with no evidence. There's nothing backing that up. But something that you kind of, when you were describing like your process of like kind of diagnosing a car problem, reminded me a lot of like how I've heard doctors kind of think about, diagnosing a patient, general practitioners and all. You kind of have to think along those same lines.
Let's say diagnosing anything is, to me, done the same way. I mean, there's a process you follow, and if you don't follow that process and you get ahead of yourself, sometimes you take too far of a leap forward and you miss stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And it's our normal process of understanding is essentially doing that, because I actually got the same thought as you, Scott, with the medical, because I watch Scrubs all day every day pretty much. And then also, the detective shows that my mom watched, it's all a process. It's all got to be done a certain way. It's all got to fit a certain way, or else it just doesn't work. But you really shouldn't be making assumptions in these cases. You should be starting with the empirical data that you have, the data that's set in front of you, and working from that point forward.
It depends. I don't know. I get what you're saying. I think those detective shows can sometimes get things kind of wrong with how they do it to make it interesting.
They absolutely can. Yes, I agree. I mean, they do have cases where they, have had things go wrong, and wrong people have been put in jail, and all that. I mean, yeah, it happens. People are people.
I was always more fond of Columbo.
I'm more fond of the scientific method, is kind of where I'm going with this. Like there are different methods you can use, but the best one in the world, probably the universe even, is the scientific method. If there is a better one, then I will be privy to the evidence that shows that. But science
Using
is
the
a good one.
scientific method.
Well, I mean, that's the thing.
I mean, I'm just saying that's almost trapping you in a bias there. To be real, I mean, what if?
No, you can't. No, that's not fair. You can't say that like it is it's self-checking, and you're kind of using that against it. The fact that it has its own self-correction machinery, kind of, that's somehow a flaw, but that's a trait that has allowed it to gain robustness. That something doesn't just need one study to show it's true, and then it is now science. It needs other avenues to show it. You know, you need a lot of evidence to back it up.
Actually, absolutely not against you. I just kind of think of, we still don't know how much we don't know. So,
Sure.
That's really the way I always operate. Is I have no idea what I don't know, and what's going to screw me over later.
Yeah, well, that's getting to a philosophical level of like, there are the things that we don't know that we don't know. There are the things that we know that we don't know. There are the things that we know that we know. And
that we think we know.
Yeah, those things that I know that I don't know, I don't like those things.
Like we
I don't know if I don't like those things.
We know that 2 + 2 equals 4. You know.
Yeah.
We know there are things that we do know. You know. We do know like some basics of like chemistry and things like that. There are things that we definitely know. You know. We know that the Earth is not flat.
No, it's dinosaur shaped. It's shaped like a velociraptor.
It is shaped like
a turtle, damn it.
It's a velociraptor. Get it right. Yeah.
There are a lot of widely accepted things. Yes, I agree, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not. I'm
definitely saying that the Earth is not flat. That's wrong. Fight me.
But the moon is made out of cheese.
Oh, absolutely. Well, no, actually, no. Because we went to the moon, and then we just kind of left it alone for a while. Because once we figured out it wasn't made of cheese, it was no longer of any use to us. So.
It's actually not true. There's a lot of helium-3 on the moon that we would love to have.
But that's not cheese.
Not cheese. Yes, that's absolutely correct. I agree with that statement.
All right, I think I'm gonna end it there for the
Gaming stream.
We can keep talking. That's fine. I'll leave the stream up. But as far as the video is concerned, we'll leave it there. We have figured out that helium-3 is not cheese. Absolutely, totally agree on that for sure. So, this has been Technically Incorrect. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Later.
Yeah.